So I just want to welcome everybody to the May 14th Parks and Recreation Board meeting tonight. This meeting is intended to have a opportunity for members of the community that have had interest in the Odorisio Park Improvements Project to be able to join by Zoom, hopefully convenient this evening for folks who, maybe can't always make it into the township building and, just easier to maybe attend on their phone or on their computers at home to give an opportunity to have a bit of a discussion. Um, so tonight, we don't have a quorum, so it's not necessarily a designated formal Parks and Recreation Board meeting. And all that really just means is that we're not going to take any votes or make any formal recommendations or anything to give direction on any items. This is just going to be more of a public forum. I do want to kind of give a little bit of a presentation that I kind of have given a couple different iterations of over the last few months in terms of the playground development. That way, we can kind of set the stage to have some discussion and then also provide a little bit of background on just the project, where we are, and basically where we're headed. So I wanted to let the folks that know, well, the folks that are at home that have joined us, thank you so much. We really appreciate you signing up and registering and taking an interest in the park. It's really important to, hear the passion and the interest that folks have in terms of what they want to see with the playground, especially since it's such a big space. And it's going to comprise, pretty large part of the project. And also, just when I say playground, I mean, play space, active space. I know there's a lot of thoughts and ideas that have come along in our last few years of talking about the project. So I just basically, I'm kind of like throwing the blanket term playground over the space. Obviously, we're here tonight to determine what we want that to look like. Doesn't necessarily have to be your traditional, commercial playground equipment. We can be creative with the space. Um, so I wanted to kind of just welcome everybody. You should have an opportunity, the way this Zoom is set up, to raise your hand and make a comment. The only thing that I would say is maybe just give me an opportunity to step through some of the details a little bit, because I did want to show a little bit of a presentation. Since we do have a small group, and I know the board has kind of heard this over and over, I just wanted to maybe try and jump through it a little, skip through it a little bit faster, but also just give the opportunity for folks who might be joining us for the first time to sort of like hear a little bit about the road we've traveled and some of the progress that we've made. Um, so with that, I'm just gonna basically get started. My name's Tammy Cohen. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation, and I really enjoyed working with the members of our board um, that have been wired in on this project. With it's been a while. We started in February of 2022, so it's we've been talking about Odorrissio for quite a while. One of the things I'm going to do also is I'm going to share my screen so that you can see um, the presentation that I have. So you should be able to see. Let's see. I think I got to swap, right? Ian,
Yeah,
we
just
talked
you got it
about
in the display
swapping
center.
the two.
That
Okay.
should do it.
Um, So, starting in 2022, we've had 4 years of a lot of discussions about the park space. We know there's certain areas of the park, we want to improve. Obviously, the baseball field is going to stay the same. The wooded area is going to stay the same. And we worked through a process, which I really want to thank the board members over the years for bearing with us. And I think tonight we have Commissioner Childs, who's on with us. I know he was a former Parks and Recreation Board member and chair, now turned commissioner, obviously in a position to champion this project and help us get us over the finish line. But Howard, I really want to give an opportunity to thank you, for all your time that you've put in on this, engaging residents and representing the board throughout the process of 4 years of public meetings, discussing, how we get the improvements over the finish line for Odorisio Park. So this has been a deeply collaborative project all along. We've had a myriad of different meetings. We've been in the park. We've had, in township building meetings, RTCA meetings, and we've been at, by Zoom a couple of different times to try and make it convenient for folks. And essentially, as we've worked through the process, we landed on a conceptual plan that basically had been forwarded on to the Board of Commissioners for now it would be in their hands to start taking it forward in terms of the next steps of review. So we got to a point of the conceptual plan. By all means, not 100% final. There's still a lot of things to work through in terms of a lot of the improvement areas. As we know, the parking lots, we have a comfort station that there's interest in turning into a pavilion restroom area. And of course, the playground area, which makes up a sizable piece to the location. There's intentions to create, accessibility throughout the park, basically allowing people to, from an ADA standpoint, have accessibility from the parking lot along West Wayne Avenue all the way to Fairview's parking lot and in and through all of the spaces, such as the pavilion, the playground, and then hoping to plant some trees and, make it a nature-based space as well. We know there's a lot to be proud of the park currently. We want to maintain a lot of those features and then obviously take an opportunity to improve some of the spaces that need a lot of work. We know that there's a great deal of stormwater runoff that's coming down onto the ball field now currently and into the space. You can see the erosion that we've looked at in numerous pictures over the last few years that is happening on the hillside and eroding the trees and the root systems and greatly jeopardizing those spaces. So the improvements that are made in what I'll call the upper portion of the park, where the playground's going to be in the pavilion, is definitely an area that's going to require a lot of stormwater management and stormwater considerations. So I don't want to get too deep down in the gutter, I'll say, on that right now. We do want to focus on the playground, but there's still a lot of pieces of this project that have yet to unfold to get us where we're going, and essentially continuing to work, through that process. So the next step here is to kind of figure out, like, okay, how do we want the play space to look? How big will it be? And then after we can start to kind of like, drill into a square footage of space that we know we want to look at or what might work in terms of play equipment, active spaces, what have you. Then we can start to engage something that would be called a schematic design, which will really help us understand how the site will work in terms of the stormwater runoff, which we know is a big piece, and how all the features will flow, essentially, and be situated. So that would be a next step. And that would be something that there'd be a proposal from a designer. It would have to be authorized by the Board of Commissioners. There's a lot of pieces that go in there. And then throughout that process, that's where we would start to present the project's conceptual design to them to get their support, recognizing there's a great deal of investment right now that's going to have to go into this project. So, when we talk about the playground, that's one puzzle piece that's going to, be a cost to this project. And then there's also, the overall construction, there's design, and all of these considerations that will go into it. And I know our commissioners, many of them have been involved in this project. In addition to Commissioner Childs, I know Commissioner Myers has had a great deal of work and time with us over some of the years that she's been on the board, and I know has been supportive. And given there's been a lot of parks across the park system that have had improvements over the last decade and a half, I think we have a lot of strong support for Odorriccio now being essentially the next park to get this facelift and get comprehensive improvements taken place. So how the conceptual plan unfolded was there was essentially a desire to kind of flip where the bathroom space is right now. So you can kind of see on the plan that I have up here, we've got the, let's see, I can probably use a marker. I'm not sure if that helps, but um, there is a, let's see, I think this might do it. I don't know if you're able to see this, but we've got the parking lot at Fairview, and then the boards, at the board's desire, we had an interest in flipping where the playground is now and moving it over. So there, it basically is going to be in the direction now where the parking lot is at Fairview. And then obviously the playground would be situated somewhat where the playground is currently. And just envisioning that to be more of a seating space in and around the pavilion area where folks could be closer to the playground or closer to the ball fields to be able to watch soccer, watch baseball, and what have you. Um, and these spaces have not been 100% designed. Again, keep in mind, this is just a concept. This is a plan that's from 50,000 feet. Our goal is to continue to take this to 10,000 feet. So we get more into the details, which essentially is, why we're taking a close look at the playground here today. So I don't want to get too hung up in some of the other spaces. I want to really try and focus on the playground areas. But just wanted to give a little bit of perspective in terms of the layout, in terms of, where we've gotten in terms of how things would be spatially situated. Let's see. So moving on. So I just want to go through and give some examples of some different spaces. And I wanted to start a little bit from a special needs standpoint. We have a number of, folks in the community we've heard from throughout the process of having a survey that was sent out, as well as just engaging residents and overall wanting to make this an inclusive play space, that people can enjoy. And understanding that we do have a significant amount of kids within the community that do have special needs, and statistically from a national standpoint, 1 in 6 children are diagnosed with some sort of developmental disability. It's something that we have experience with as a department every day, especially through our programming that we deliver. So we see that firsthand, and we know from hearing from members of the community, there's various needs and wants, and having a space that is for all abilities, a place that has, a sensory diverse type environment, that can ensure that, children, regardless of, their skill sets or their abilities, can play and connect, alongside their peers. So obviously there's a thoughtful design that could go into a play space that takes into consideration, those types of needs. And there's a whole lot of different approaches that can happen from that standpoint. There can be tactile areas, there can be areas where there's, ability to see things, hear things, touch things, and engage in different ways that just allow everybody to be able to feel like there's something in the space for them. And we can get into some of those, details, of course, later. So there's a lot of different features, like for instance, in the upper right-hand corner here, there's something called a wee saw that tends to be considered an all-inclusive feature. We have one of these over at Petrie Park now. It's very, very popular. I had mentioned, some different types of play that can engage at different levels, with regards to sight and, hearing, all of that. So there's things that have, music embedded into them, tactile, sensory type features, things with color, spinning type visual apparatuses and things like that. There's, of course, adaptive swings, where, they just allow people to be able to swing together. They're able to, have different types of seating configurations and arrangements. That can be something that, kids that maybe have certain types of disabilities can, participate in and be part of. Communication boards are another big feature. We have those across some of our parks now at Enki and Clemacrone. So I'll just kind of go through some of these different things and just show some of the pictures of what we have. Here's the picture of the we saw that we have now over at Petrie Park. Here's some other examples of adaptive swings, that can allow people to have, opportunities to swing and spin, hear music, things like that. There's different types of slides. This is more of a tactile-based sliding apparatus that can give, different types of textures and feels and things like that for kids that have and, look for that type of sensory stimulation. So just some other, again, musical features, things like that, that can be had in parks, tactile features, low hanging features and low achievable features where they can work on fine motor skills and gross motor skills without having to climb up ladders and be up high on tall spaces. And then here's some other just examples of some things that, that are out there to just show. Another thing that we heard a lot about was, comments so far was that folks like to see nature-based playground spaces. So these are some examples of what those could look like, where not only are there trees and things embedded, in landscapes areas embedded in and around the play space, but also things that have more of like a natural look, that allow kids to be able to, play on and what have you. So that's some consideration as well in terms of how, these can be configured. So I just wanted to kind of jump through some of those examples. We know in hearing from folks, they like to see some different things that embed nature, and gardens were something that we heard a lot about also that could be developed within the spaces. So I just wanted to kind of go through some of those examples. A lot of these features here where you see like wooden jump stumps and transition areas where there are rocks. A lot of these are commercial-based features. They're not actual rocks, but they are commercial features that, involve composite materials and things like that, that, are just kind of made to look and feel, like they belong or are part of nature. Obviously, there's opportunities to use, real type materials, but, when you start to look at longevity and sustainability, you start to lose time with those things and they tend to erode or, become, embedded with, certain types of insects and things like that. So there's definitely considerations that, we would want to make if we were to use actual natural features versus commercial-based features, that are made of composite type materials. But as you can see, there's a lot of creative ways to put the playgrounds together from a nature-based activity standpoint. So I just want to kind of go through some of those. We know sand features are something that folks have talked about that they like to see, where there's elevated stations and things where you can have water, you can have sand. There's sand-based areas in playgrounds where you can embed fossil-like structures where, kids can have, so-called archaeological digs, and they can feel different types of sensory features and different types of creative features that can be embedded within sand spaces. I know there's some playgrounds locally that have these types of features that are really popular. So again, just some examples of what those look like in different park examples. So I think I had mentioned gardens also. Gardens are something we heard from folks that might be of interest for kids so that they can, dig and get their hands dirty in addition to some of the sand spaces. We can do things with planter boxes, garden pits and things like that that might offer that opportunity. So we had a couple of different playground manufacturers that we've worked with in the past at various parks that exist currently in the park system. Landscape Structures is one of the major companies, and they put together some just examples for us. These are by no means meant to insinuate that, this is a plan for development. These are just for example purposes only. So I wanted to show some of those. Landscape Structures is a local manufacturer here in the US, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, our playground currently at Fenimore is a Landscape Structures playground, but that one, of course, dates back to roughly 2002. So here's some other examples. Here's a sand area. Again, we talked about was popular. A lot of low decking structures, can be designed for children with disabilities, obviously to offer the ability for, kids in wheelchairs or that don't want to be up on high level obstacles and things like that. But then, of course, you could kind of marry them together with different features for, again, kids of all abilities. Game Time is another company that took a look at this for us, and I sat down with them and came up with some of their features from their catalogs that might fit for us. Again, just examples of what just want to show these to members of the public and the board to start and stimulate conversation. We've heard a lot about active spaces as well for all ages, be it kids, teens, adults. Active areas, been something that have been around for a long time. In fact, at Hartford, when I first got to Radnor in the early 2000s, I know we had a walking path throughout Hartford Park, and we had, fitness stations located throughout the park. These are things that are still popular today in various areas, as you can see here. These are a little more ninja course oriented type activity spaces. Again, something very popular that can be taken into consideration and not necessarily in totality to comprise the entire space, but can be designed somewhat in terms of a bit of a hybrid. Cargo nets are something that are very popular today in a lot of spaces, especially those that are looking for more of the active base climbing features. That kind of brings me to the end of everything, but I want to kind of step through that and typically just like our process involves a lot of different steps. Once we start to generate some ideas of what we want to see, that gives like our staff, myself, an opportunity to sit down with different manufacturers that might be applicable to what we think where the community's interest lies, and then start to have a conversation with them, about what, might comprise the area. I know that early on there were some discussions about spray parks and spray grounds. I know that we had a lot of lengthy discussions on those. There's a large degree of infrastructure that goes into creating a spray ground space. Something else to keep in mind with that is then, Odorriceo becomes a destination for people in the region that seek that type of activity. I'm sure anybody as a parent, you would drive far and wide to get to an outdoor spray ground water feature space with your kids. At least I know in my experience, that's something that is very popular and, parents do tend to travel far to get to. So I'm not sure, the Odorriceo Park and the neighborhood would be welcome and receptive to that. I think we learned early on that that's not only it could be very expensive and costly to the project, but is something that might be we might not be able to have the ability to be that type of a destination or want to be that type of a destination, quite frankly. So a lot of the ways this sort of unfolds is having those conversations with manufacturers. There's a lot of great playground groups with that, are US made. We have Playworld Systems, which is the one that actually had been the manufacturer behind Enki and Clemacrone parks, the two most recent parks that we have that are playgrounds that were developed, and they're manufactured right here in the United States, and actually in Pennsylvania. So they've been a great company to work with. I know that there's a lot of discussion that comes about with regards to the surfacing as well. Both those playgrounds at Enki and Clemacrone have something called poured in place surfacing, which is a rubberized surface system, which would be highly recommended for this space. It is recognized to be accessible, in terms of ADA, and does provide some low maintenance. We do have EWF in the rest of our park playgrounds, which is something called engineered wood fiber. A lot of people call it wood chips. They think of it as just, wood chips that are sprinkled in the areas that are there, but it's really not. It's a fall attenuated engineered substance that allows for fall attenuation. There's different depths of which it is comprised in different areas of the playgrounds that have it so that it can take fall from the different decking levels, which comes at a calculation in terms of how the construction takes place with regards to how the playground's laid out and how it is configured, which comes, again, with a very systematic approach in terms of fall zones and things like that, with regards to how the playground ultimately would get engineered and laid out. There's a lot of pieces and steps that go into that process. But from a surfacing standpoint, obviously EWF can be very affordable. The poured in place surfaces, they tend to be a lot more money, but has definitely been part of the direction in which, we've liked to go with our playground replacements as they've been happening across the park system. There is talk within the field that at some point the EWF material may not be accessible in the future. So if you can imagine, I think it would be very hard to take a wheelchair through it, but believe it or not, today it is recognized as being ADA compliant in terms of the playground. But there is movement within our field of Parks and Recreation that on the horizon that may not be the case. So I would highly suggest, going, at this particular site, of course, going and moving forward with a poured in place type of surface. There's things you can do with gravel. Gravel, believe it or not, is recognized as being not only accessible, but a safe substance with different compression levels buried underground. I've seen sand. I mean, I travel, different places in the South and things like that. Sand is used very heavily. There's things with different types of tiles and stuff like that are also used. I can't direct you to any examples throughout our park system. We really have poured in place, and we have the engineered wood fiber. We don't have other types of materials, but there are some in the region that offer that diversity. That if anybody wanted to take a look at those. Something else that comes up a lot is our sunshades. We started with a sunshade project at the leadership of the Parks and Recreation Board a few years ago here at the Enki Playground as a little bit of a test pilot to kind of see how that project would go, because the sunshades weren't built when the playground was built at Enki. It was a project that came later, and that has been met with great success. So we know that sunshades are materials that we know folks want to see across the park system. So the goal in building Odoricio's playground would be to incorporate shade structures in some way. So that would be a priority. And then right now, you don't see a fencing configuration around the current playground. We talked about maybe adding on a temporary basis until we, engage the new project, recognizing that, in order to create the safety and security that a playground does need, that will be a priority as we head into this project of replacement and all of our replacement projects that we know sit on the horizon, like O'Connor. For instance, would definitely be one where we want to give that consideration in the future as well, with various points of access. Enki Playground only has one point of access, but it is a much smaller playground in comparison. If you look at Clemmercrone, for instance, we have 3 gates with 3 gated access areas within Clemmercrone. So that would definitely be an area where we would give consideration. One of the things we did at Clemmercrone was we created an access to the bathroom that comes right off the gated system there at the playground. That's something we may want to consider in the design here, but also being mindful of the pavilion having maybe a space where it's reserved for parties and different types of formal permitted events and groups. So if there's an opportunity, though, to create, close access space to the bathroom from the playground, I think parents would definitely welcome that, having that ability to not have to travel, far, to get to, a restroom space, like, we do have in some of our other parks. I know that's something that folks have had, commented on. That is definitely a great matter of convenience. Um, so at this point, I was just going to kind of, I guess, maybe turn it over to the members of the public, unless the board had anything specific that they wanted to share. I know folks are going to have a lot of questions and they're going to have a lot of comments, and we are being recorded tonight, so we'll have the opportunity to replay, the Zoom tonight, so that other folks in the community can see it. And so I would say, unless the board has any comments or information, they would like to offer, we can turn it over to the public and go from there. So as Ian had mentioned, there's a feature to raise your hand. I guess if there are folks that want to raise their hand and speak, we can do that. And I guess, Ian, you'd have to turn off their microphone or turn on their microphone.
Yeah, that's correct. And the raise hand features at the bottom of the screen on the toolbar.
Okay.
So we have a few hands raised. I have Jackie Baver.
Yes.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Jackie. Doing
Hi, how are you?
good. How are you?
Good, good. So my name's Jackie Baver. I live on West Wade Avenue, directly across the street from the park. So we see it all the time. And I like the, open thoughts about designing the playground. My question is, how are we going to give input on deciding the actual items and things included? Because it seems like, like there's a wide variety of things, and you want to cover lots of different people and kids that want to use it. Uh, so how is this going to continue to develop, that we get to review and give input on the exact design?
Well, I think, so we've received a lot of input so far. We engaged a survey process that had taken place a couple years ago, where we ascertained, a lot of feedback. I know there were folks that wanted to see an inclusive play space. Um, they like the idea of, having a commercial-based playground similar to some of the playgrounds that we have now. Again, incorporating, more of the advanced and today's standards of
Mhm.
features, of inclusive features. I know we've heard a little bit about having some more challenging features for, like late youth, early teen ages. So I think, the goal is to kind of continue to hear what people want to see,
Mhm.
and then, somehow try to take a step back and look at all of that and start to marry together a design, and whether or not it becomes something that is a hybrid of features. And then that would certainly be something that, we would put together in terms of a schematic layout, and bring back for people to take a look at, make comments on, and, you know, ultimately we want to land on something. And, the way this process goes, we've obviously had a lot of development of parks over the years. Fenimore Woods, Clemacrone, big robust projects, and not everybody's going to get what they want.
Right.
But but we have to have a process to hear from folks, and start that process, and that's kind of where we've been. Um, but now it's starting to, we really want to drill a little bit more, a little bit deeper into the playground, so that we understand what folks want to see. So hopefully that
Yeah.
answers your question.
Yeah, the timetable for having that happen and getting to review potential plans. I'm just hoping that, we see that coming and the people who have been interested are all included in that process.
Absolutely. So, I mean, from a timetable standpoint, I think, where our goal is to, over the next couple months, start to, get this feedback and start to work through a design. That way, at least we can um, start to come up with an order of magnitude cost. That way, we may not have the specifics, we might not have, the detail 100% fine-tuned, but at least if we have an idea of the space and what folks are looking for, we can assign a cost to that would fit in the greater, more comprehensive picture of the park project. That way, that's something, at least from an order of magnitude standpoint, we can get before the Board of Commissioners as they go into their 2027 budgetary planning process.
Good. And I'd like to agree that I think the multi-use purpose is really good because there are definitely some older kids in the neighborhood that can make use. And then at times there's young kids that are there and then kids with the special needs. That I think is important to have areas for all those, as much as you can. I agree.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback and for attending tonight.
Thank you.
So we have Suzanne Fleming.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay. Yeah, so I emailed something over with some different ideas and stuff, but um, I'm just curious as to why it's taken so long. I mean, from 2022 to now, and it still doesn't have a budget or like a specific plan yet. Um, like, why is that? And how can we move this along? So, because it seems to be taking a very long time.
Well, compared to Fenimore Woods, this has been lightning fast. And I say that in complete jest, only because that was a process that started in before 2016 and we're just under construction now. So I mean, I've been here since 1999. I've been in my role since 2010, and along the way, there's been a lot of checkpoints. We've tried to engage as many people in the community as possible. Every month of the Parks Board agenda, Odorosio Park has been on it. I've lost track of how many meetings that has been. I know at one point, it was like 60, 70 meetings. So I agree. It's been a very, very long time. I think we've been trying to get as much feedback as we can. We've had some stops and starts. We've had community forums and discussion meetings at the RTCA and at the park. And I think things have gone in ebbs and flows in terms of attendance. So I don't know that we've really gotten a strong attendance and have really felt like we've gotten a strong sense of feedback from folks. So I think maybe that's caused a little bit of the lag time. Um, and so, along the way, we had to do, we applied for a grant, we engaged a designer, we had a survey done at the park. Those things, it just really they just take time. And then they all require checkpoints along the way for Board of Commissioner approvals. Um, so I know that the Parks and Recreation Board, in their capacity, have not only supported this project as a priority project, as by way of the long capital plan that currently exists with regards to park improvements, but they also voted to earmark money within our Park Impact Fund, which it's separate from our capital budget. It's a separate fund that is money that's generated from developments that happened across the town. And the Parks and Recreation Board had voted to submit to the Board of Commissioners and recommend that that money be earmarked for the project to the extent of which possible. So we know that sits out there. So there is the opportunity that some money is sitting there already. So there are commitments that are behind this project. It's just getting it across the finish line in terms of its design, understanding the representation of its interest, and then starting to work through what all those pieces are going to be of what it costs. I'm not sure if you were on earlier, but one of the things I mentioned is because a lot of the work that's taking place is at an elevated area within the park, and we're trying to stop erosion and stormwater management. That's going to be a big part of the park in order to ensure that the controls are put into place in the upper level of the park so that the stormwater runoff doesn't continue to exacerbate the baseball field. So we know that that is going to be another step in the design process that we are going to have to go through.
And I wasn't aware of that. I mean, I after this call I was, but I wasn't aware of that prior to the call. But I realize that that's like a problem that has to be addressed, and it's a major problem. But I think for most parents, grandparents, or caretakers, they would just like a park that we can use now. Or because it's like that is, I think, the most underutilized park in Radnor Township. Because I can literally see the park from my house, and it's almost always empty. Um, and what I would like to see is children in the park playing. But the basic things that I would see is like if we could just do the flooring and the fencing and then everything else after, I think that would be a huge first step.
Well, the fencing is certainly a possibility, but flooring, and I assume you mean surfacing, there we would
I
not be
mean, I
able.
mean the poor stuff that you were talking about.
Right. So to go in and do that now to a playground that we would be removing and obviously replacing, it would not be cost effective to do that. Not to mention that from an engineering standpoint, to dig out the subsurface could compromise the existing features in the
Okay.
park today. So
Okay.
that wouldn't be a good use of funds to do that. I mean, it would cost us a significant amount of money to extract everything that's there now and install a port in place surfacing system.
Okay,
I'm
that's
not saying
valid.
what's that?
I said that's valid. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, I mean, I'd rather take, whatever the couple $100,000 that literally that might end up being, and, in my experience and what I've seen, and putting that towards the park project. But from a fencing standpoint, that is something we can look at doing currently
Oh, great.
because,
Okay. Well,
because fencing is something we can remove and we can reuse. And I think we
okay.
did talk about that. We had that suggestion, I think, at one point, and that's something that is on our Public Works Department's radar because that's a project that they would actually do in-house.
Okay. The other thing is, like, I heard you mention about moving the bathroom, and wouldn't it be more cost effective to use the existing bathroom and maybe just, vamp it up a little bit? Because if we extend out the playground to where the bathroom area currently is, we don't have to do all that plumbing, and that just seems like it would cost a lot of money to just rebuild the whole structure.
Well, from again, the meetings that we've had along the way, the feedback that we heard was that folks want a new restroom and they want a pavilion area, where, there's an ability to have an overhang with picnic table seating, um, and a vantage point, of course, to the baseball field and the soccer field. So that's where the board had landed and the team had landed in terms of the feedback that we've heard, which is
Mm.
why those two areas became reversed. Now, as far as extending utilities, it's really given where the current configuration is of the sewer at this point, and the way the lines and the water lines are run, it's not that far of a distance to move it. Um,
Okay.
so I mean, it's not like there's a significant grade issue as well because it's fairly flat in that area. I know there is a slope that goes down. Um, So, I mean, like I said, coming through the public process, this was what folks had wanted to see, especially in having
Okay,
pavilion space.
I understand. It's since it doesn't impact the cost much, that makes sense. But I would want to add, which you probably know this already, but there should be a changing table in there.
That would have to be the case to be code compliant. And
Oh,
current,
okay,
yeah, the current bathrooms are not code or ADA compliant.
okay,
Everything in this park, when it's rebuilt, will be required to meet those standards.
okay. Can we at least set some goals as to time frames where we can say like, oh, this is 3 scenarios to choose from, and like have people vote on it, kind of thing?
We certainly can.
Yeah, I
I
mean, in
mean,
that way, like, whatever gets the highest vote of the three options,
yep.
that's what because it just seems like it's just taking so long. And I think if they have 3 options to choose from, you know, because I think Enki is a good park. I think Clem is a good park. And, I just maybe we need a little bit more room um, for this park, but they're great parks. I mean, I'd be like, just do what they did.
Mhm.
Because I think Enki is a great park. I mean, it's small, but it's has all the things that I think a kids park should have.
Can I add something?
Hmm.
So, one of the things that I think has been, and I think that Tammy said it, and she might have said it too nice. Um, but being a member of the community, what I feel as though as a board, we're waiting. We don't want to dictate
Yeah.
how the park is set up. We want to throw out all the options of what can be, and even with the 3 options, that's fine. But at the end of the day, we don't want to make the decision on which of the options we go with. And so it's great that you guys are here, but we need more voice, I think. Would you say, Tammy?
I
From the
would
community.
agree.
I think that we would want to hear, like, when we get closer to finalizing everything, because what always happens is people say, well, I didn't know, or I didn't have input, or why didn't you? And so I think just being able to say, this is what, we've researched, this is what the research has found, here are the 3 best options based on that, based on the fact that that's what you guys are asking for, and then just going from there and making sure that everybody has a chance to weigh in that lives in the community.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that I know in the community around the park, and I think there's some senior members who have been around for a long time that I think could, and Mr. Childs knows a lot of people in the community as well. So I mean, I think we could pull it together once we have something to actually present. And like 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 I said, 3 ideas of like what did you do for Enki? I mean, because that park is great.
So Enki, believe it or not, did not have a public process. That was
That's probably better.
Just,
it
if
happened
I,
pretty quickly.
yeah, if I could, I mean, I was around on the board when the Clem McCrone process went through, and it took a similar pace. And one of the thing, and I would say there, the public had much more definitive ideas about what they wanted to see as the park. And I know one thing, and I think my colleague just articulated much better than I could, is sort of balancing the getting the public input and moving it forward. Because
Exactly.
once this is up, it's up, So, we want to make sure that while we know we can't make everybody happy all the time, we make the highest percentage of people feel like the process played itself out, the public got their input. And so because of that, it may not be as efficient as Enki, was where it was sort of put up. But that's the challenge we're having. But I can tell you, I feel confident saying this. I don't think I'm speaking out in terms for the rest of the board. We want to see the project moving and getting forward and getting done. I think Odorisia is great potential. It's a great park. I think as it is right now will be spectacular once it's built. But just this is sort of a similar pace that we saw at Clem McCrone. But I think feedback once we have conceptions out there, the more feedback we can get, the faster things can move.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
delay.
I'm happy to help out with getting people involved. I
Right.
mean,
The
and reaching out to people in the community, and
right.
but we have to like we can't just talk about it anymore. We have to show
Right.
them some ideas.
Right. I agree, but it's just I think the most important thing that can keep the process moving is, when we have those three options, four options, two options, whatever it is, have the public there so when we get to vote on it, we don't have to sit there and question like there's only two people in the room here. Can we really make a decision like this that just because we know it's a busy time, people are at graduation parties or whatever, but I would just that's the only thing I
Yeah,
can say.
I'm more than willing to volunteer to reach out to people in the community. I'm happy to help with that. I don't know about other people that are on here that live in the community, but
It makes our
we all
job
want to
easier
see
when we
this
have public.
happen. And
It's
if we can like have those examples, I think you're going to get a much quicker response.
that's great. The more public feedback, the faster we can move. And again, if people aren't happy with the park, they can just unelect, Commissioner Childs when his term is up. So
Sure, he's loving to hear that right now.
I get to say because he was sitting on the board with me about 4 weeks ago. So
But you see what I'm saying, right? Like if we give them something to look at, like something just actually, I mean, because Anki is a great park. You guys did a good job. I mean, we can redo like something like that.
Well, so just to chime in, so tonight, like I'm showing some examples that, I went out on a limb with some of our companies and put together. So that was the goal tonight is from what I'm showing you, what do people like? What do you like of it? Like you might look at the image on the screen and say, I really like, a certain aspect of it, but there might be another aspect that you don't like. So I think that's kind of some of the feedback that I would be looking for because I love your suggestion of doing scenarios. It's easy to do that.
But within the space that we have, like, because a lot of these things aren't really matching the physical space
This
that we have.
is. These designs are.
Oh, they
These,
are.
yeah,
Okay.
these
'Cause
designers
I see
have
trees in the
developed,
background and we have hills going
well,
down.
I get that, but the space in which the playground itself, and they do that for imagery, but the 3,000, 3,200, whatever the amount of square foot is that I gave to them and I gave them the plan, that's how they've designed it. So what you're looking at can fit within that plan. Like this was what they actually used to convert this drawing together. So these are actual, sorry to go quick, but these are actual uh, pieces of equipment that can fit within the space. And as I had mentioned earlier in the conversation, what you're looking at on the concept plan can be expanded. It can be expanded, it can be contracted, the pavilion can be moved, it can be shifted. Like nothing's locked into place. Like we still have a lot of fluidity with what we're working with. So what I would ask the folks that are here tonight to do is to tell me what do you like? What do you not like? Um, I know from your email, I believe that I had received earlier today, you don't like the drop zone at Enki Park. I understand that. There's people who love it. I've got,
No,
people who love it, people who don't like it.
I don't dislike the drop zone in the sense of like if it's used like as a wall for climbing and slides and things
Mhm.
like that. It's but when you have little children, but you're going to do the fencing, so that doesn't matter to me.
Mhm.
The incline is perfectly fine, except it's not really accessible to people with handicaps. Also, and the slide is helpful with that because people can get down faster. They just have to worry about getting up. But I mean, I like the way Inky looks. I think that is a good example of a park. And just maybe embellishing a little bit on the size of it.
if I
But I
could
think that
if I could ask
that's
a
a
question, what about the nature, the sort of blending into nature's one? Like there was one earlier, I know Tammy showed it almost looked like something out of like an Ewok village in Star Wars. I thought that was pretty neat with the
yeah.
tree.
Could you bring that back up?
I'm just curious what
I do
people.
like the
That
concept of nature.
No, there was it
Yeah.
was it was another one. I think there was I think there was like a house on like a structure on stilts. No, no. So I think Anki is more of a stick out type one, but there was one when you were talking about the nature,
that
this
That
one.
one. That
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I mean that's nice. I just don't think we have enough space for the other stuff that the kids want, That And
But the,
also
Well,
I'm thinking more long term. What's going to last and how easy is it to maintain? Now,
so
if this structure looks like wood and isn't wood, great. But if it's
that's what this
wood,
is. This is landscape structures. It's
okay,
commercial-based equipment. It's fully composite. This is not wood. These are not things that somebody went into the woods to, derive the materials. And we've had things like that throughout our parks in the years of having the Radnor Trail. We had like real log benches. They lasted 5 years.
exactly.
So we understand that, and materials tend to get, like real materials tend to get carpenter bees, carpenter ants.
Yeah, and
That
that
would
was one
not
of
be
the
my
things
recommendation.
I was going to say. The sand is just a lot of like I think a lot of problems with that as far as like we have cats running around. It's gonna be their little personal litter box. It gets funky and dirty. Ask anybody who has a little sand thing in their backyard. I personally don't think it's a good idea. It might be fun, but it gets nasty quickly. Um, the rope things I've seen kids get caught in a lot. I think that's more for bigger kids than little kids. So maybe in like there will be a younger section and an older section of the park where the bigger kids can do things, but the little kids, I'm just thinking safety. Um, and I think one of the things I mentioned is like those elevator things. I literally saw a girl fall and have a concussion and was out cold. Ambulance came to pick her up.
Yeah,
Um,
can I comment on that for a second?
uh-huh.
Just because I am aware of that incident, and so that child had a seizure.
Oh, I
And
did
it
not know
is
that.
yeah, that I remember that incident from a few years ago, and it was undeterminable whether or not the child had a seizure and then fell, or fell and then had the seizure.
Yeah, that was
Um,
last year. I saw it happen. It was last
Mhm.
year. I don't know if she had a seizure or not, but she was out
Mhm.
for a long time.
Yeah, we were very aware of that incident.
Yeah. So I just assumed she fell off of it. I won't even let my grandson on it because I was terrified that he would fall and break his neck or something.
Well,
But yeah,
one thing one
if
thing I can
that's the
say though is about that feature, and again, just this is the byproduct of having these things in the parks. And not only do we have the one at Clemacrone, but we also have a drop zone at Enki. We just had to make a costly repair to the one at Enki. Um, so in my opinion, I wouldn't consider that item again because of the fact that Enki was built in 2015, and here we are just, what was 10 years later, making a very costly repair to it.
I'm great. That's great to me because like they make me nervous anyway. But so
Mhm.
that's fine by me. I'm in with you on that one. Yeah, I mean, obviously the slides, all the climbing stuff, that little green, the in the Enki, that little climbing thing where you put your little feet in and I think it's green. That's great. It's got like a little tunnel underneath, but you could do it more natural looking. Um, like there's so many. I'm looking at the picture that of the natural one. The problem I see with that is there's no shading for the kids in the hot summer sun. They need like some shading.
Yeah, shade is a big priority. That will be a big priority.
So like in this natural one, I don't know how you would do natural shading. Maybe enclose the top with like what looks like wood.
Well, you can do so, like, well, first of all, this is just an example.
No, no, I'm just throwing because somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks nice. I'm just thinking more real.
Right. So something like this can have a closed top, like where it's
Yeah.
completely, it's an enclosure. In fact, I'm sure there's examples of, some of these that have enclosures, in terms of the roofing systems.
Yeah, I meant for
Um,
the more natural look. I think the more
mhm,
natural look is cool as
mhm,
long as it's functional.
right. But shades will be a consideration, but just like one thing I want to make sure is understood is that we can't shade the entire playground. Like we
Oh,
can't,
no, I know that, but
right.
there's also natural trees there too.
Right, I agree,
So,
I understand,
yeah,
but we have people in the public that would like to see the playground shaded over the entire structure and that, the entire
yeah,
playground.
that's not
Clemacrone,
realistic.
I know.
I mean, I would
So
say the eating areas and
mhm,
like,
picnic
some of
tables.
Yeah, like wherever they eat and like where there's tables and stuff and where there are benches, like that kind of thing. But like the play areas, I'm talking about the ones that they go climb in just to have a top piece. So that's, like Clem has that where it's kind of enclosed so they don't like get sunburns and stuff as easily. I
Okay.
think a cross between Enki and Clem is a good combination. They both have
Feedback's
great
really
things.
helpful.
I'm serious. I'm not, being sarcastic here. I'm like, they're the two parks together. If you take out a couple of things and put a couple of things, I think are great.
Can I
I
just
do
ask
like this picture you have up right now with the slide, with the little things, squiggly things on top. That's pretty cool. I mean, maybe we can have something like that going down the mountain and going down the little hill in the park.
On the
Is it-
hillside?
Yeah.
Well, I'd be concerned because of the baseball field. And I know we had a discussion early on about doing a seating configuration in there, and I know that
Oh, is that where they're going with that?
there was a worry that, during the winter when there's snow on it, that sledders are going to sled on it. It's going to become a safety hazard.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that the hillside, because it goes into the ball field, could be a safe feature.
Yeah, I mean,
That'd be
I thought there
great,
was
don't get me wrong. But I
I
think
thought there
some
was a
folks might
big
have an
enough
issue with the safety.
gap between the base. If there's no benches there, it depends what you guys are talking about, benches or not benches. But if there's no benches at the bottom, there's room there for the slide to be like for people to land because it's not right directly on the field at the bottom of the hill. I mean, people in the wintertime are sliding down that whole area on their sleds. It's like people come from everywhere just to sled down
Mhm.
that thing. They like going down there. So I just thought it would be a cool, like maybe a little rock climbing wall and a sled, just kind of using the landscape a bit.
Okay.
Tammy,
Uh,
Tammy,
Yes.
for my reference, can you just help me? I've heard Enki Park and I drive by, but I've never been to it. How large is Enki Park in square footage, and how many square feet were we talking about at Odorrcio? I thought you said 3,200, but
Yeah, well, so it's around 3,000 at Odorrcio
okay.
that's there now. I think it's maybe more like 3,500. I'd have to get the exact number. But it doesn't, so we're not locked in. Like
But
I'm
what's
saying,
what's what's Enki?
Enki's about 1,500.
Oh, so it's half the size.
Roughly maybe
Okay,
2,000 compared to like 3,200. It's
okay.
definitely smaller. Enki's a lot smaller than what Odorrcio is currently. But, for
and
now,
I think there's room to make it a little bit bigger too, right?
so if we, like I said, if we not kind of get locked into space, but more so get locked into the ideas, we
Mm.
can build based on the ideas to fit the space where we are right now. Obviously, we don't want to, fill this whole box with a playground. We want to allow, for some, planting of trees in the pavilion and all of that, but we have a considerable amount of space that we can work with here. So right now, we can slide the pavilion, further to what would be the west, and expand the playground based on, again, some of the features that people want to see. So I think right now we want to get the ideas and the concepts and the equipment that people are interested in, and then, we can start to, kind of mold that together. And then ultimately this space will get configured to meet what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, both parks have some really good things in them. So, I mean, I don't know, almost cut and paste the two parks and make it into one. You know what I mean?
I do. So I just wanted to kind of jump back and, kind of go through some of these. And if you see something, obviously tell me to stop, but I wanted to go to a couple of the concepts that we had.
Oh, the one thing I wanted to say was the swing at both um Enki and Clem are is that special needs swing is great. If we could have maybe two of those, that would be great.
Yeah, there's
Instead,
definitely a plan for those.
because they only have one in each of the parks, and some of the kids that are not special needs use them.
Right.
So
It's
it would be nice
definitely
if we had
universal.
two or more. this one's nice. I like the little climbing thing here, the one you just put up.
Hmm.
That looks very nice.
When you say the climbing thing, what do you mean,
Where
the
the
rock
like
structure?
no, I'm looking at a little pathway you have up on the screen right now, a little play area, little slides, the green slides and all that. I probably wouldn't go with green, but
Trying to
it's
figure out
that
how.
looks okay.
Okay.
Are you talking about the wall that the little girl's climbing up?
Not
No,
this.
no, I'm talking about no, not that at all. No,
Right.
Okay.
I'm talking about the structure in the middle.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That.
Yeah, I mean the one that they have at the park. Because I go to both of these parks like a lot, too much, and they're great parks. Both of the parks are great parks. So whatever they have, just you go with that. I think you guys did a great job. I didn't understand that. I don't even understand why you care about it. As long as it's safe and it has to me that those parks are perfect.
Thank you.
But
We
yeah,
have
and
a,
I also
oh,
think that
sorry.
pour and play is going to be better for wheelchairs if kids want it with wheelchairs, much more accessible.
Mhm. Definitely.
But, Tim,
But I
we
think
have
I
a,
sent you some pictures of Enki and Clem. Um, I might have included those in some of the pictures that I sent over. Did you get all my pictures?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was worried that it was going to blow up your server.
No, no, we're used to receiving a lot of big files.
Okay.
Ian, were
Yeah,
you
I mean,
trying to say something?
yeah, we have a few attendees who have had their hands raised. I don't know if,
let me take my hand down. Okay, go ahead.
just so we can get everyone a chance to comment.
Okay.
So we have Bess Yates.
Hi there. Can y'all hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Bess Yates. I live just across the street from the cemetery on West Wayne Avenue, um, on 309. But I wanted to say that I really appreciate y'all giving us the chance to offer feedback through the surveys and then through meetings like this. It's really great. And so I just have a few thoughts now with the sixth grade daughter. And I was at the last meeting and just shared that, that there's really, as I think you were saying, Tammy, just that there's not as much of unstructured play areas for the middle school age set and even into high school. I'm just thinking about like there's Radnor Trail, they did a walk to Wayne. They don't really have any sort of play structure at the middle school. Well, they don't have a play structure at the middle school. They have fields and they have a gym, which is great. But they go to the library, there's the skate park. And I'm of the mindset that it would be great to diversify our playgrounds. I love the idea of the nature-based play, and that's something we don't really have as much of that I'm aware of in Radnor. I mean, we loved going to Inky and Clemacrone and Odoriso and to Beau Connor. We would just kind of rotate from going round to round when she was little. But the nature-based play would be amazing. And then I love the idea for the special needs. I also had one other thought that's on top of kind of the ninja course that I mentioned in the last meeting is just and you have already mentioned this, Tammy. I'm just all for including all ages. So I have some great pictures that I can send you all with my mom, who is 80-ish, with my 5-year-old doing side by side stationary bikes, stationary ellipticals that are there. I can't say that they're very comfortable compared to, let's say, a gym, but it's great to have that as an opportunity for all ages to be able to kind of to take part in exercise outside. And so I know that gyms, oftentimes you can only have you can be 14 and use the equipment. I think the Edge or even over at ACAC, you're 14 years old to be able to use weights or even get on a treadmill. So, I mean, so I think that's really sort of where I land. I'm coming at this from a landscape architecture background. I've been teaching at the Temple in the landscape architecture department since 2008 and horticulture department. So just would love just to see. I love Inky and I love Clem, but I do think something a bit different would be really cool. But having the same kind of experience for kids and for all ages, getting some good exercise, climbing and jumping and that sort of thing. So thank you all. I think I think that's it from my comments.
Thank you, Bess.
Moment.
And we have Jackie Baver.
Hello, this is Jackie Baver. Do you hear me?
We
Yes.
can, yes.
Yes, thank you. So just extending off some of these other comments, I do want to agree that I think sand is not such a great idea because of animals in the area using it. And yeah, I'm not a big advocate of sand play in this park. Uh, I also think my comment would be there is a nature area in that woods that, has been talked about trying to be used and put paths through, and people have said, well, we can't disturb things or for whatever reason, but there is nature around in this area. So to make it like a nature playground, I think does not necessarily serve the community here because I see the kids that use this of various ages. I do like the idea of the older kids having activities to do because as they grow up, it gives them a place to go. I see kids bicycling back and forth and going over the playground, but something for bigger kids would be great. My other comment too is on where the playground is situated, now that where you use that upper parking lot or come off West Wayne Avenue, it's further to get to. And it's like there's a lot of trees and a path to go through to get past a pavilion and to a playground. So I know people will be coming from all sides, but I, s- just from that schematic that shows the overall picture of the plan, that there's just like kind of a big area of just path and trees. And if it could be maybe divided into some space for, maybe little kids or on one side and bigger kids or like divided up and more space for play as opposed for this just kind of long walkway. Because if you have little kids and you're parking in the upper parking lot and you have to try to walk kids down to get to the playground, yeah, that picture. I mean, it's far because you got the playground on the other side of the pavilion away from West Wayne Avenue. So it's just kind of, I don't know. I mean, if there could be a tot lot first and then an older lot on the other side of the pavilion, might be a consideration. But I would like to see some bigger climbing and things, activities for the older kids. So you're asking for opinions, and that's what I'm giving.
Thank you.
Any questions or do you want anything more? I'm happy to be done.
Thanks, Jackie. Really appreciate you attending tonight and giving us feedback.
Okay.
Um, Well, I see Bess's hands raised. I'm not sure if that was from previous, but I'll unmute her quickly.
Oh, appreciate that, Ian. Yes,
Mhm.
I just have one last thought. And I don't want to necessarily take us on too big of a tangent about Bow Connor, because I know that you've mentioned, Tammy, that that is going to be at some point on the table as a park, or excuse me, as a playground to consider. Uh, and and maybe I don't even need, let me just step back. I'm not going to even bring up O'Connor, but I guess I'm wondering, as maybe it's the landscape architecture um, kind of coming out, just thinking about Bow Connor and Odoriso at the same time, and seeing, you know, whether there's ways to consider, like, whether it's not necessarily both at the same time, because you guys want to get something done here, but um yeah, never mind. I'm gonna step back. Never. Okay, thank you. I
We'd love to get them both done at the same time.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. Okay, I'm gonna mute. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bess.
Any other comments from the public? I see Commissioner Childs has his hand raised.
Hello. I'm where I'm thinking about where that the pavilion is now with the restrooms and everything, and sort of like sits up higher. Um, we've had, you know, well, Tammy, you know this. We've had a couple of barbecues out there, and you know, where that landing is, that landing area, and how it overlooks everything, and where we were able to have the barbecue there, and be able to look down where the two playground areas are. And I know I had talked to you about this. Would that open up um, more field? Because I don't know what's going to happen with the lower parking lot that's parallel to the third base line, where the fence is, where the old basketball courts used to be, that parking lot there. Or is there anything is that parking area going to continue to be there, or is there any plans or any suggestions about that area there?
So this was the concept plan that you guys voted on to move forward,
Yeah.
and that eliminated that space. And then what we were doing is we were maximizing the parking along West Wayne and Fairview. Um, because a large part of what is going to have to be done in that area is to capture and convey the stormwater
Hmm.
that's going to result from the playground development as well as the comfort station pavilion development. So,
Yeah.
just even though we're replacing existing impervious, um, because the township has codes today that it did not have when it originally built these features, 50 years ago. Um, well, the playground's like 35 years now. And the comfort station's probably 50.
Easy.
So now that we turn around and we build these structures, there has to be a plan to convey the runoff, and be able to channel water. And that's, all, based on engineering calc of the amount of disturbance and the amount of impervious that's going to be there. So we knew when we landed on this particular, I'll call it, final concept of the plan, because this is still very much a concept. This isn't anything final. And it's all predicated on everything working, where the stuff is, the amenities are situated. That parking area would be, removed, and then we would develop, obviously, whether there's going to be swales or some sort of, maybe rain garden, We talked about underground systems, like that's where the schematic is going to flush that all out, but that's why that space is there. And again, these features can move. The playground might get bigger, the pavilion may move further west. That's all to be vetted out. But like I said, yes, in this plan, the parking area would be removed.
Okay.
I don't know if that
That's
answers your question.
yeah. I mean, well, that sort of like just adds on to where where that grassy area is, where there's nothing there now, along with that parking area, and then the actual playground itself. So that makes one large stretch right there for a huge playground area, depending upon whether or not you do have a pavilion, I guess seating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there would be. That's what we heard. And that's
Yeah,
what this was developed around, was that would be an actual pavilion restroom structure.
yeah,
Now, sizing wise, we when we were having these discussions, my understanding from the public and the Parks Board's desires, we didn't want a pavilion the size of Fenimore. Maybe not quite as small as Clemacrone, but something a little larger. That I think the desire was, 6, 8 picnic tables that would fit within there, so that it could be something where, it could be reserved for, organizations, community groups, individuals having parties, things like that, as well as being an area where we could accommodate the band, the music. So
hmm
we needed to move the picnic tables out because, we were having Odoricio music night, because we eliminated the stage
right,
that's built into where you see picnic lawn, and we eliminated the seating that we had, the overlook seating that was embedded, the tiered seating that was embedded into the hillside. Then, those features were sort of moved up to the upper portion of the park, that would be where we would support the music. And then the viewing would be on the grass areas that surround the pavilion.
yeah. I, I'm just thinking about from where that rest area is now. You come down that slope, and then from when it starts to level off, from there all the way back to that parking lot area. That's a huge place for an awful lot of play area. But like you said too, if adults come down there, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to walk across two or three of those playground areas just to get somewhere, if they want to sit at the picnic tables and things like that too. Just a thought.
Okay.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus, Andy.
That's it. I'm not seeing anyone else with hands raised from the. Oop, someone just did. We have Suzanne Fleming.
Hi, sorry. I'm surprised that you guys didn't get any pushback from taking that parking away, because whenever I walk back there, those spots are all taken on the left side of the park. I would think the people that live around that area would be very upset that their parking is disappearing. Um, has anybody said anything?
I'm sorry, can
The
you
area where you're talking about the pavilion near the basketball court? Are you saying you're taking the parking away on that side of the park?
No, the Fairview parking lot is still intact, that you see on the screen.
Oh, okay. So that's not going to go away.
No, no.
Okay, because I was like, wow, these people, I would think they would be raising up a storm.
No, and that parking also accommodates Second Baptist Church and the RTCA, so that's an
Oh,
essential.
okay.
That definitely is an essential area.
Yeah, no, it's just I was like, is that going away?
No, it's what Commissioner Childs was referring to is the blacktop surface area along the third base line in the upper portion of the park towards West Avenue, towards West Wayne
Okay.
Avenue.
Oh, I understand now. Okay.
There's a big
I
impervious
misunderstood.
surface area there that would go away.
Yeah,
Thank you for
those
clarifying.
steps that go down to the third base line, that
Yeah,
area.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, yeah, are they going to take away the parking over there? Is that where you're saying the parking would be eliminated?
There's an impervious surface area along the third base line at the top of the stairs.
There's a parking lot there. Is that going away?
That surface area would go away, yes. And then the parking is expanded on West Wayne Avenue in Fairview.
Okay. Yeah, that is a hike though for people. If they're coming from West Wayne and they're parking up there, there's going to be a hike to get through the park.
But there's parking lots on both sides of the park.
Yeah.
So there's
Both sides, yeah.
and the beauty of Odoriceo
Yeah.
is that it has two parking lots. A lot of our park spaces don't have, they don't have
Yeah.
two parking spots. Two parking lots, I should say.
Yeah. And the beauty of that part is, again, that's where we've had various barbecues out there with anywhere from 50 to like 90 people over there at one time, and it's, the older you get, the shorter you want to make that walk,
Oh, I feel
especially
you.
especially coming back to your car,
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you on that one.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, I know at the bottom of the hill where the fields are to the left, there's like an open area that's not really, nothing is there. Um, you know what I mean? There used to be a fireplace down there in that area.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe we could do like the bigger kids park down there and the little kids park up top. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
So again, so just going back through tracing the last few years of discussions, we have a significant amount of stormwater runoff coming from
In
that
that area.
onto the adjacent properties along Atlee. So the Atlee residents back up to the area that you're
Got
talking
it.
about.
That makes sense
So
then.
yeah, so that's a natural swale today that catches stormwater.
Got it.
Which the plan is to actually create more buffers in that area because those properties are
Like
especially
plant
the
more
one in the
stuff, you mean?
corner, especially the one in the corner is having a lot of issues with runoff coming out of the woods and onto their property.
So
Uh,
more vegetation is what you mean?
yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yep, absolutely.
Quick question. Down there where she was just talking about, uh, that's the untouched portion that you're talking about where wildlife is and birds and bees and deer run and all of that. Because I'm just thinking back to my crazy days. We would start up by the basketball courts and go up the hill and then down through those woods, make our own little path coming through there with bikes and everything, and ride through that open area and come back by the that log cabin there that used to be there. And I was going to try and talk you into putting that log cabin back there.
I'll let you start with talking to the residents first about that. How about
No.
that, Howard? So there's a Mr. McBruty that lives in the corner and Mr. Herman
Yeah.
is at the bottom of the hill. I'll let you go talk to them
Yeah.
first. We'll see how that goes. But they are your constituents, so you might want to stop in and say hello.
Thanks, Tammy. I remember when you had like little ice storms during the wintertime and that whole side of that hill right there going towards that log cabin was just nothing but an ice thing. And we would take sleds all the way down to the fence and run right into that fence there.
Wow.
Yeah. We didn't have any tires or anything that sort of like would stop us from, crashing into it. So we just automatically just bail out off of the sled and just take just slow down slowly as we came to the fence.
Jamie, I'm wondering if we might consider more than one bathroom. I know we've never talked about that, but looking at the size of the park and like where the bathrooms are now, the fact that you're gonna make the parking lot that's down there like grounds, if you will, right? That like it seems like it would make sense to have like a set of bathrooms in one area and a set of bathrooms in the other. Like, because on a day, if you're going to build a really nice park, you're going to have a lot of people. So you may have the pavilion and people are just sitting under it, but you may also have a baseball game going on and people playing in the park. I'm just throwing it out, and I know we've never discussed it. I don't even know if it's possible, but just hearing people talk about the walk from side to side, I'm wondering if that would be an idea.
Where are you suggesting a second bathroom? Because we have to consider a lot of things when it comes to accessibility, utilities, even if we don't use utilities, if there's a septic system, there's a lot of pieces. So I'm not clear where you're thinking. Because the
So
thought
I
is that
think,
the pavilion would have enough stalls within it to accommodate what the uses are at the park. Like it
and
will
so
be
the
designed
pavilion
that way.
sits in the middle, is that right? It sits like in between the playground and like the top of Fairview.
Where you see it on the plan that I have up, yes.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm driving a little bit,
Oh,
so
that's okay. Yes, it's
I was just going off of
basically
memory, so it does kind of
essentially
sit in the middle.
where
Okay, all
yeah,
right.
essentially where
I
the
heard people
playground is
talking
now.
about the trek from different areas, and I was just wondering if one would stay where it is, and then maybe build one where we were planning to build one.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would be a good use of the space.
Okay.
Because I would say that we would want to build the amount of bathrooms, like, toilets basically within the pavilion to accommodate what we're going to lose from the space that we're going to be removing.
Okay.
Since it's really in roughly the same area.
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand. If I'm misunderstanding, let me know.
When I'm looking at the plan and I'm hearing what we're talking about and the fact that we're taking out that black top and we're making it, like grounds. So there's going to be, I just feel like we're going to be going from West Wayne Avenue all the way, but it's in the middle. So I guess it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. It's about the same for everybody.
Yeah,
Whether
I mean,
you're
I
in
would
the
say,
playground or whether you're in the ballpark, like, watching baseball or whatever.
right.
Okay.
I mean, if there's consensus that we want to have a second bathroom, by all means, we can look at having a second bathroom.
I don't know. It just, as I was hearing people talk about the distance between, certain things, it just felt like maybe we should put keep the bathroom where it is right now and then maybe build the pavilion with additional bathrooms. But it would be an extra expense, and I just forget it. It's okay. It was a passing thought. I wasn't sure if it made sense. I guess it really doesn't, so we're good.
No worries. I think the bathroom where it may end up slightly to the west. It could be, equidistant between, the basketball court and we'll say the West Wayne parking lot. So it seems like it's going to land probably somewhat centrally located. I think
Okay.
The bigger issue is to make sure that it's configured so that if there is a party or a rental going on, the accessibility isn't through the used space, the permitted space, but rather on the back of it. And that's the way the building will be configured, so that somebody's accessing the bathroom from the back of the space where the pavilion is and not having to, intrude on a party or a rental or, some other, group of people that are there using it.
Okay. And then my input on the equipment is I like the double slides with the curly things. And I was thinking maybe not by the hill, but by the gate. I don't know. When I looked at it, I was like, well, that looks really cool. But I don't know where everything else goes or how it fits in, but I like those two. I think someone else on the call had mentioned it. And when I looked at them, I liked them too. It was like a double, yeah, that right there. I don't know if there's a way to do that. By the fence, so that they're not sliding down the hill. But I do like that as a feature in the park.
Can you clarify what fence you're talking about? You mean
So the picture that you have up, it's the picture to the far right, and there's the tent, and then there's these two curly Q sliding boards. Yep, right there.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
I don't know where they sit, but I like them.
Okay.
I thought someone else had mentioned them too, and I like them too.
Okay.
I just rode through the park, and there's just so much space to work with. Ooh.
Definitely is.
It really, I mean, just from the playground perspective, I wouldn't even want to, you know what I mean? I thought about what Howard said about the log cabin. And it's just like, no, let's just stick with the space we have right now. Good Lord. Although the log cabin was a good time and it was a good historical feature. However, it would have to be very secure, and it probably would be a great venue type of thing, but we're not there right now. We're just on playground.
So the only thing I would just want to raise as an issue, not an issue, just in the interest of, having this discussion, is that again, in order for us to, have the impervious surface of the playground and of the bathroom, and then, the contiguous spaces that will come along with that, along with the walking path that's going to go through the park, to be able to provide the accessibility, there is going to have to be, stormwater management features that are going to have to be embedded into the park in order to make it work. So that space might get utilized in that way. I'm not sure how affordable subsurface systems are going to be, or how engineering, from an engineering standpoint, how feasible those are going to be. I know we're going to be taking a look at, how can we create conveyance potentially to West Wayne Avenue. The issue with that right now is that if you go out to West Wayne Avenue, you don't have a stormwater inlet until you get further up towards Friends of Radnor Trails Park. And then from my understanding is there's not another one until very much further down West Wayne Avenue.
Yeah, and I think we just solved the whole flooding problem down there.
Right. So that's why the schematic design as the next step in this process is going to be really critical, to try and understand how it works. Which is always, a concern, when you take a look at, adding a lot of features and doing a lot of different things to a park, especially a park that's never had, any type of engineered plan from that perspective.
Well, I will say that the challenge, even though we probably don't see it right now, is to make sure that we have enough to make the park look full, because it's going to be, by you closing off that blacktop, it's going to be so much more space. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be so much more wide open space that you almost don't want it to look bare.
Right. No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's going to have to be landscape features, stormwater features potentially embedded in those spaces.
Hmm.
So it will use the space very quickly.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not going to be an advocate, for a lot of rain gardens. I know that I mean, if you go, go obviously over to Clemacrone, like there's 4 rain gardens in Clemacrone to have made the stormwater conveyance work in that park. Um, it's obviously not the sole feature that can be utilized. The rain gardens obviously come with a great deal of maintenance behind them. But we're gonna have to look at different, what we'll call, BMPs, best management practices, to make it work, like swales and rock beds and things like that. And that's gonna have to come after we understand, like, does the ground percolate? Does it not percolate? And where can it be channeled?
So are those decisions being held off based on our design of the park and our decision on how we want it to be set up, or are those things being looked at right now?
So they're not being looked at right now because it requires an additional design proposal, which I have in hand. It's been so the last couple months, I've been working with our design team that had come up with the drawing that you're looking at here to give me a proposal on what they're going to charge us to now, take again the plan from 50,000 feet down to 15,000 feet so that we can take a deeper look. Again, the level of detail that we put in these impervious spaces isn't essential right this second. Like, obviously, if we're going to expand the playground by, 1,000 square foot, that will make a difference. But we'll allow for, a conservative amount of space within that. I think right now that space is, I know it's over 3,000 square feet. I have to get the exact calculation on what that looks like there. Because again, it doesn't have to necessarily be a circular bubble. It can be a square, just as long as it's, capturing the same amount of square footage. But so right now we're in the process of making sure the proposal works for what we're looking for. And then because it exceeds a certain dollar amount, that now has to go onto the Board of Commissioners for their approval.
So one of the participants or attendees mentioned having 3 options.
Mhm.
Is that something that we can provide for them? Like, and how soon would we be able to do that? Do we feel like we have enough input tonight? Because I feel like we got a large input tonight, a lot of kind of detailing things. Do we want more people? I feel like we've gone over and above to invite people and have them be a part. And if they don't, then we can't continue to hold up the project because we don't want another, pandemic or war or like something come to knock us off the grid. Let's, like, you know what I mean? Can we give them those 3 and then get these people to do the perk things and, like, because we've given as much time as we possibly can.
Yeah, so these two processes have been running parallel. So last month, obviously, we had a goal of, meeting in public here at the Township building, to talk about this, and hear from people and really, take what we've learned from the survey and what we've gathered through all the, patchwork of meetings that we've had the last couple of years where we've gotten bits and pieces of input, about what people want to see, i.e. the playground. Last month's meeting, Bess, I think, was the only person who had showed up to the meeting. So we didn't really, get a lot more feedback. And tonight was obviously a goal of, okay, let's try a Zoom meeting. People can attend from, their homes or on their phone or where have you, to make it convenient. So I think, based on what we have tonight now, which, I know there's still a greater population out there because we've heard from them, and we can now, I think, take what we've gathered, and I think we can marry some of it together. I mean, so the challenge is, we've got to, like, basically make a judgment call. We've got people who don't want to see sand pits. We've got people who are passionate about having a sand area. So, trying to, develop some version of that. And that's why the suggestion of having a few different iterations is great. Because then, we can try and, put those out there and marry into one, future concept, or, a concept that we might advance. Parallel to this, I've been working with the design team to come up with the proposal to start doing the schematics as design, which basically takes the puzzle pieces here. Again, we're not seeing all the detail on them, which is completely fine, but is allowing us to at least keep that process moving forward. So where I am right now in wrapping that up is it would go on to the Board of Commissioners and it would have to be approved. It's not final yet, but these two processes have been working parallel next to one another. So one hasn't been waiting for the other, so to speak.
Okay.
And that's been our goal. So, we can continue to flush out, the type of equipment, whether we want to see sand pits or we want to see, elliptical machines or whatever else within this area. We can continue to flush that out, but alongside of that, keep moving towards the next step which would be is coming up with the schematic design to really decide and figure out. Again, this gets way above me in terms of the engineering concepts, but to figure out will it work, and how will it work from a stormwater management standpoint, because that'll be the key. I'm not sure if that answers your question. I hope it does.
I guess the board will decide how we want to present these schematics to the public so that we can get their input.
So what I would do is when I take the proposal for the schematic design, which it'll be an authorized amount that the commissioners will have to see and provide their vote on. Simultaneous to that, I will show the commissioners all the work that you guys have done over the last few years in coming up with this plan, so that they know that the project is moving and it's now going to go on to another phase to start to again continue to build the understanding of what it's going to cost. Because until we understand how it's going to function, we won't really know exactly how it's going to cost, what it's going to cost. So to give you an example, let's just say that the stormwater conveyance works in some areas, but it doesn't in others, and it requires some sort of a subsurface system. That's a game changer in terms of the cost. We need to understand that. We need to know that. And that involves, trying to understand the soil composition, how the ground will percolate, and receive stormwater, convey stormwater, and then how this area can be graded and configured so that it will make all of these features work. I'm sure Steve Norsini has a much more eloquent description of that than I do. That's our township engineer, for anybody who's not aware.
So can we give the group of attendees, can we give them, I don't know, they should be on the lookout for, the schematic, or how can we hold the attention of the people that we have, so that when we're ready to make decisions, they can help us, talk to each of their neighbors or whatever they can do to help us get as much input as possible. So we don't want to lose the momentum. Like last month we had one, this month we have 5 or 6. So how do we maintain the momentum?
Well, I think we have to, ask these folks to stay engaged and to talk to their friends and talk to their neighbors. And then at this point, we get to work on putting together a few different iterations that look like some of the things that I've showed you today, that
Right.
we had last month, that we now start to refine. So I've got, the few playground companies that I've been working with, they're sort of just waiting on us. And once I can go back to them and give them a little bit more of an idea of the features that we're looking for, which is, I think, all of them are either, it sounds like, in a park now existing, or it's something that, we've looked at on the screen tonight, and start to build this out into a design that folks can look at within the next month or two. I don't want to guarantee a timeline just because I become at the mercy of those who are producing the information for us. But I don't see any reason why within the next, month or two, we can generate, those iterations for folks to look at. And in the meantime, I would ask them to just stay engaged, and if they could help us by, getting as many people, in the community that, can either outreach to us or, outreach with them in some way, if it's signing up for our Odoricio newsletter or, sending an email address, so we can keep them engaged. That way they know this is coming. And when it starts to make progress, further progress where we're looking for more, weigh in or decision making, they're there at the ready in order to do that with us. And then taking that a step further, as the project goes further before the Board of Commissioners, being there along with all of you to support that. I know Howard is going to be a big champion to it as it moves forward, with his co-board members, in making sure that these things get approved and keep moving.
Tammy, uh, I would be willing to, if someone could make up a simple flyer for me, I'd be willing to go around and knock on the door and try and get some people to get engaged, before the next meeting.
Mhm.
If that would help out, and to give them a little speech of, we need people to be engaged so that we can get this process going, get things going. So
Sure.
I'd be willing to walk around and do that with a couple of flyers. You think that would help out? I mean,
Yeah, we can provide you with that for
it,
sure. We can.
it wouldn't hurt anything.
Nope, not at all. And so just so you know, I'm not sure if it's gone out yet, but it's going to go out in another couple weeks. But I have a letter teed up about the upcoming Unity in our community event. As you know, we close down the block, mid-block at Highland, and we use a portion of the parking lot for the Highland homes. So we have a letter that goes out to notify all the residents in the area, with the portion of Maplewood, all of Highland, so they're aware of what the impact is going to be. The date of the event is Saturday, August 22nd. So that letter, and we just signed off on the draft of it a couple days ago, will include information about, again, staying engaged on the project, signing up for the e-newsletter, as well as, advertising some of the other events and things that we have going on. So that's another way we're also trying to get folks. And, once that letter goes out, that's another opportunity to reach people. So, if you wanted, you could take that letter and deliver that letter if that works, or we could do a separate promotion, send the letter like we plan. And then, it's easy for us to whip up, a little promotion. We did that when we had the survey out and about. And I believe your
Okay.
sister and your niece actually helped us circulate all those.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd be willing to do that if I think we need to do anything that we possibly can now to push this on down the road. I mean, that seems to be a consensus with everybody that's on the line tonight. So if that would help,
Mhm.
and nothing beats a failure but a try. So
Sounds like a great plan. Thank you for offering to do that.
Sure thing.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I see we have one hand raised from Suzanne from the public.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hi, yes.
Hi. I just want to say thank you for making this on Zoom. I think a lot of people at this time of the day, like 6:30, have kids and things, and and this Zoom was really, really convenient. I'm also disabled, so it was helpful that way. So I want to thank you for doing that. I think it's a great idea. And I think, if we promote it a little bit more, we'll get a lot more people. And I'm happy to help out with if Mr. Childs needs help handing stuff out. I'm happy to try to help with that as well. But there was one thing I wanted to point out. I did send it in my email. It's about the rust in the structures, like the metal that's used. And I don't know if you probably have that taken care of, but I just wanted to point out that, our park right now is a lot of rust on the playground.
I can have the Public Works Department take a look at that. It very well may be on their to-do list. I know their spring list is quite deep right now. But I will have them take a look at that to see if they can sand some of that stuff down and coat it.
Oh, I didn't even know they could do that. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
there's a substance that you could sand it down and put on
Awesome.
it to help deteriorate some of the rust that's there. And then, obviously onward and looking at new companies and things like that, we'll have, whatever the latest and greatest technology is that sits out there in terms of the metals they use and recommended features for, particularly this area of the country that we are in.
The other thing is on the Otis area, the local community. I mean, maybe we could put an online voting thing for every email address that we have connected to the park, and like people can vote for whatever one they choose, and that way nobody can say they didn't have an opportunity because they couldn't go to a meeting or they couldn't do this. They'll have the pictures there and they can pick which one they like.
Yes, that sounds like a great idea.
That's all I had to say for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thanks for participating.
Tammy, I'm not seeing anyone else with hands raised from the public.
Okay, so unless the board is looking for any further information tonight, I think we'll take in everything that we have and kind of move forward with these action items.
Sounds good. Great meeting.
I'm good.
All right. Have a
Take
great night,
care.
everybody.
Bye
We'll plan
night.
on
Thanks,
seeing you
Tammy.
in a
Thank
June
you.
meeting. Good
Thank you,
night.
everyone.
Good night.
Thanks.